How tragic is it to feel as stagnant as a body on a bullet train, to feel fragile as a glass house with a crack at the foundation, and knowing that these people see you solid? How do you get them to acknowledge that even the most broken people can keep a straight face? There are so many cracks in this mask, I'm just praying that the glue sticks. Because I've made this stage a pulpit. The congregation is convinced that my interpretation of the word is gospel. But how long before they learn how often I misquote scripture? And will my testimony still be sufficient when someone leans in close enough to notice these poems is written in mixed signals? Will they notice how I don't show up for altar call no more? How I don't be at the open mic like I used to when I was comfortable sharing that service? When I was comfortable enough sharing my surface, I learned that what is surplus will always be enough to be liked by people who like to be liked by likable people. The type of people who will not afford me their friendship. When the distance between us is far enough for the blade in my back to remain anonymous. Look, I got a lot of stuff that I don't talk about. And you might not like me if you knew about the pots I pissed in or the people standing beneath the windows I threw it out. Some of it I have no words for. Most of it I wrote poems for, but those are sermons I wrote for a calling I choose not to answer because I'm too busy being busy to be bothered or be better than whatever this is I've become comfortable with. And I've learned on this stage that if you keep a compass between who you are and who you tell people you are, they will follow who you show them. I've even tried advertising myself as someone of an honest clock, and honestly, if I'm being honest with you, I tell you my timing is off. I'm finding myself in my finest hour trying to remember where I was headed to begin with. And the worst is, somewhere along my pilgrimage, I acquired a mass of parishioners. I opened my full mouth and inspired somebody. I'd have been quiet about it had I any inclination that they were listening. It's why we admire the people who keep to themselves and practice discretion as a second language, because you can make something beautiful if you apply the right amount of pressure, but you know, if you overdo it, you end up with dust. I remember once a woman told me she made me, and I believed her. And how could I leave her with no idea of how to rebuild myself? They say if you want to make a people believe themselves to be powerless, all you have to do is convince them that they had none to begin with. I later learned that the greatest thing about finding yourself is when you learn you were never lost to begin with. One thing I know about life is that no one makes it out alive. That's why I write, so I can document my time here and now, so later on I can remind myself that right now used to be ours. These moments are the flowers we give ourselves, and I may not always remember that someday. Like that one time, I don't know if any of you have ever experienced this, but one time I walked out of my house and forgot myself. I showed up for work dressed as someone else and no one noticed. They greeted me like we speak yesterday as a first language and a last resort. Not one of them could feel me breathing like a houseless ghost, even though I was as transparent as I had ever been. And I suppose they would have seen right through me had they seen me at all. But we don't always know what to look for. And I'm really not trying to find myself in a prison of my own undoing. The year I turned 33, I had never felt more unlike myself. I had a tan line on my finger and a ring I kept in a compartment of my car door. I had no idea what my daughter had for breakfast or what she thought of me. I was surrounded by friendship, and I had never felt more lonely until I learned the word quarantine. And I found myself in a prison of my own undoing still. It was at that time that I wrote these words. Years from now, and several pandemics later, someone too young to know what the air tasted like today inside will ask me what I did with my time here now. I'll tell them I worked on myself. It was the one thing I had control over. Thank you. I'm going to sing a little bit at this beginning part. All of my life, all I ever wanted was to be a man. I didn't know what it was to be a man. Daddy, uncle, cousin, brother, teacher, preacher, man. I couldn't see myself in none of them. Not none of them. Maybe one of them. Yeah, maybe one of them. But he was too deep in the streets to see what I learned when he burned his weed. Turning corners in the Thunderbird, and the seat was turned to the third degree when he ashed his weed and turned to me. Like, hey, Jit, you good, you going with me. And we might slide through NMB, make our way through Cloverleaf, gonna end up around some LMGs where them boys be, but you good with me. Yeah, you good with me. Yeah, you good. He was deported back to Jamaica shortly after that. I know he left with his hands cuffed, covered in a criminal's uniform, looking like another conviction. And I was surely somewhere nearby watching a boy trying to become some kind of man. I think I learned a lot just by watching him. But I never got a chance to learn more. Bo died in Jamaica on his front porch from a gunshot to his head. So I never asked the questions that I should. And what went unsaid was misunderstood. His death happened, and I understood that men don't plan for happenstance. And life happens at the happy chance that the rapper becomes a poet. He the dopest and don't even show it. It just happens he happens to know it. But the rappers ain't rapping no more, and the poets is capping. I'm slapping the flow. I'm yelling to God by my Uncle O. I wish I could show him how dope I done got. He come to my show, and I show him my flow, and I go, and I go, and I know that he proud, holding me down. Had I then known what I know now, that never again would I see him alive. I would have cried. I would have tried to keep the policemen from beating him down. I know that I was a boy, and violence and wars are made for men. But we know that boys get thrown in the wars when there are no soldiers to hold down the fort for them. Fresh off the porch, straight to the field. Little boy's not trained. That's how Voney got killed. That's how Neil got shot. KP and then Lucky, Dee and Pat. God rest in peace to one of my good friends, Patrick Lubin. Rest in peace to Money P. They put my homie Bam in the slammer, no pistols or witnesses. Standing on business and handing out sentences. Kendrick and Curtis and Brandon and Mo. Shouts out to all of the brothers who have lost gaps of their lives behind prison sentences, behind bars. Because one day you wake up and you realize all of your boys are men. And to this day, I can tell you nobody has ever told us what that meant. We just knew that the men were the boys who were a lot older than us. I find my best friend Chris on the first day of 6th grade. And Chris is the entire reason I became a writer. I would say he's my guy and my guidance. And furthermore, all my boys are my boys by divine alignment. We found each other around this time when all the men suspiciously went missing on a routine trip for milk and cigarettes or whatever else they tell us that keeps us in a child's place perpetually. And all of a sudden you wake up one day and someone says that you are a man and you are expected to know what that means. I think the first time I realized I was expected to be a man, I was about 19 years old. And there was this kid named Kevin. And Kevin was quiet and shy, like my best friend Chris. He was by my side like I was with my Uncle O. He had identified me as someone he felt safest with in the most dangerous places. He had no idea that I had no idea what I was doing. I can tell you to this day that I still have no idea what I'm doing. But what I know for a fact, what I know about manhood, what I know about my manhood, is that manhood is whatever I decide it is. Thank you. Pieces, and this will be my last piece. And the piece that I want to leave you guys with is really about how we live our lives on a day-to-day basis. And no matter what we're doing that provides us income, that puts money in our pocket, no matter what is the thing that we have to do, we have to keep some part of ourselves for what we need to do. We are our need. I remember one time somebody told me that the difference between living and existence is a matter of choice. They said that it is about the battle in your voice. And it is the way that you rattle every bone in your body each morning and give the day what you created in your sleep. They said it is about how you break. And then you leak. And then you ink out loud about everything that you think. Because it is not about what you have done. It is about how you grow. So for that reason, you got to learn how to live until living is the only thing that you know. Now, I'm a little too old for building forts. But every morning, I'm twisting sheets between bedposts. Family, I'd rather be asleep than see these people I work for. And it's got me boxing up my thoughts. I spend 8 hours watching clocks or cheating death amongst these heartbeaters. These soft breathers are an odd puppet-like people, and I feel out of place here. I spend most days making race cars out of staplers or paper planing private jets to far-off places. I consider this an escape from conversations with ghosts. People too afraid to assist with their own growth, so they step like such thin glass as if breaking were the worst thing that could happen. So every day I see at least 12 dead bodies walking. And I can't help but wonder how they fit so many coffins inside of one office, or why cubicles look like pine boxes. Even this nameplate on my desk, it's a tombstone, and I'm afraid of my own death. I'm afraid that this is it. What if my success is a grave that I've been paid to dig for myself? What if this desk is the best that I will ever do? What if this desk is the best that I will ever do? And if that's true, then death is when being common becomes comfortable. That's when you start running from what you believe in for what's needed at the moment. That's when you get gone in the wind and leave your dreams in the dust and trust that somehow your 9 to 5 will provide for these unconscious thoughts. And it's a constant struggle trying to muffle the sound of your most honest muscle. But imagine looking back, saying to yourself, what if this desk is the best that I will ever do? If you had to say that to that kid, that this desk is the best you will ever do. And not only is it the best you will ever do, it's the only thing you will ever do. The job is not all of who you are. So I'm not saying quit your job. I'm saying do something else. I'm saying feed that other part of you when you leave work. Leave room for yourself. Because I don't want this desk to be the best that I will ever do. Because if that's true, then death is when being common becomes comfortable. When you start running from what you believe in for what's needed at the moment, when you get gone in the wind, leave your dreams in the dust and trust that somehow your 9 to 5 will provide for these unconscious thoughts, I'm telling you, it is a constant struggle to provide for your most honest muscle. You know, they say the mind is a terrible thing to waste, but the heart is the worst part of God you could ever ignore. And we get so good at pretending until we start having these feelings like maybe I'm meant for something bigger, or at least something in addition to the given circumstance, because dancing for graveyard shifts and slaving for paychecks it's really killing the moment. And you know, I got it on good faith that right now is never the same twice. So you got to live out loud until they hear you, because your fear will kill you. So when opportunity knocks, do not let closed doors get behind you. Find you some purpose and go hard about it. You got to do something so loud that no one can hear you talk about it, That thing, that dream that's been beaming from you, let it lift you up and learn you new speech. Life is a language unique to each tongue. You are a part of a conversation worth repeating. When speaking of you, people should feel forced to use their hands and then smile and dance and laugh. If you make living your craft, watch how good you get at it. And when the dead people ask you how you did it, you tell them, repeat after me, the difference between living and existence is a matter of choice. It is about the battle in your voice. It is the way that you rattle every bone in your body each morning and give the day what you created in your sleep. Pause right there. It is about how you break and then you leak and you ink out loud about everything that you think, because it is not about what you have done. It is about how you grow. So you got to learn how to live until what? Until living is? Until living is? Thank you, family.